topic, civilization, right? What is civilization? So what is civilization? Like, what comes to your mind? Don't see, some things have been written here, but that doesn't mean this is only the right thing. Again, many a times I've told you, like, what happens, immediately when a teacher poses a question, we'll try to look at what was written on the board or what definition is given, and then we think on that basis. But from your perspective, what is civilization exactly?
Highest stage of culture is civilization.
Why is highest stage of culture called civilization? Because you have studied classical evolutionism. Because they said that they are at the highest stage, their culture is at the highest stage, and that is civilization.
So culture includes, there is a lot of things. Includes means you should get from zero to the things going on. So at that phase, getting the people feel they are getting things easily or being welfareistic.
Right, like to an extent you are able to connect. Ayushi, can you tell me what is civilization from your point of view? What do you think civilization is? Vinith, you can also make an attempt that what is civilization, because many a times we don't put our thoughts out. Advancement or development in the cultures, right? Okay, so to an extent you are trying to say what is exactly even the anthropologists were thinking, right? So what is civilization? We have already seen classical evolutionism, right? So in classical evolutionism, what did they say? They said that they are at the highest stage of civilization. So that means they are saying that when culture advances to a particular stage, that is known as civilization, right? So this is characterized by the development of many things: cities, language, military, technology, all these improvements. When culture gets, then that leads to civilization. So actually art, language, literature, military, okay. So when you have technological developments, so if a culture is possessing all these things, then it is believed that it has attained the stage of civilization, according to some people. Okay, so if you take the definition of McIver and Page, so you have to remember one or two definitions. Anyhow, see, now we are reading only civilization. So sometimes the question will be asked directly, what is civilization? Okay, so they will just put civilization dot. But many a times they will interlink with the other word, that is culture. Okay, they'll ask culture and civilization. Then you should write the interlinkage between them. Okay, so what are the different anthropologists and how are the different anthropologists are thinking about it? Like, how did they relate culture and civilization? So that we'll be looking at, but first you try to understand what is civilization. Okay, first civilization, just note down. Civilization is considered as the most advanced stage of culture, and it is characterized by development of cities, language, metallurgy, etc. So now you take the definitions of McIver and Page. So everything that has been done or designed to control the conditions of life, they call as civilization. And JL and JP Gillens, okay, they have a book also which has been written. Okay, so they defined civilization as the more complex and evolved form of culture. So just write down these names. You can just try to note down this part, that more complex and evolved form of culture, and here anything that has been done to the control the conditions of the life. You should know where you have to focus, because examiner also, even examiner also, many a times he looks for the keywords, he doesn't look for the entire answer, because you are given a specific time and you have to evaluate the paper. After evaluating 4 papers, nobody is interested to read the entire answer. You should make things visible to them. You should make or write in such a manner that they get to know by just looking at one glance. So always emphasize on what exactly has to be written. Okay, sometimes people know the answer, but they beat around the bush. Okay, what they do? They just beat around the bush instead of talking the main thing. They know that what is the main thing, but most of the answer covered by the unnecessary filler words. So don't do that, just emphasize on the keywords, right? So now there are different approaches, okay? So what different approaches to study civilization, and I told you like L.H. Morgan, who studied ancient society. Okay. Yeah, fine. Like, I think you people are not able to see. Is it clear now? Right. Then I won't be visible. Okay, fine. That keep it aside. Just try to note down. Huh? Yeah. Right. So there are different approaches. We know the approach of L.H. Morgan in ancient society. What they have said, it is moving from one stage to another stage. This we already know. Okay. So I will be sharing these things, but try to focus on understanding now, because when you see what happens, there are 2 things with respect to anthropology. Plenty of content is available in the market. You go anywhere, you just ask, they'll give you 4 to 5 books for each thing. So you have too much things to read in the market, but very less chance of understanding them. So try to emphasize on the understanding part. If you miss anything, you can just note down there that, sir, this slide I have missed. You can just drop a message. I'll send all of them to you. Just note down then, or you can listen to the class again. But the problem is, if you don't understand, if you are just noting down, then that would be of no use, because again you have to repeat the things, right? So second, you can see the utilitarian view, like we have seen the definition of McIver and Page, right? So this is MC Ivor McIver, it's not MAC. So McIver and Page, what did they say? Everything that is designed to control the conditions of life, right? So they are trying to show how you are utilizing, okay, utilitarian view. Just note down the view, that utilitarian view by McIver and Page. Because he is saying that it is nothing but all the things that you are creating for your utilization part, for you controlling the conditions of your life. So he is talking in terms of utility. I told you, right, different approaches, right? So these are the different anthropological approaches. One, I think here you have to change this. This is not social linguistic approach. This is rather evolutionist approach. Okay, so I was just waiting whether any student will talk about it, because you have already done classical evolutionist theory and you are not identifying that what we are reading. L.H. Morgan, evolutionist, right? So that is the evolutionist approach. Then you have historian approach. So why the civilization will develop? Because they say because of the historical factors or the geographical factors of that particular region. Okay. So according to historians, specific factors in a geographical region will give rise to the emergence of civilization. Like you take Indus Valley civilization or Mesopotamian civilization. Why did those come up? Because they say there were rivers, there was a trade happening, or some or other the reasons, right? So their geographical regions give rise to some certain conditions, and because of that civilization will develop. So these are the views of historians. Okay, then you have anthropological approach. Okay, so just note down these names of anthropological approach. So they try to show the difference between the civilization and culture. Okay, they don't consider the civilization and culture as the same. Okay, rather they tend to talk the differences. Initially, evolutionists said that it is culture only, but at the evolved stage. But now these people are saying that culture consists of something, values, beliefs, okay, which are different than the utilitarian things which are objective. Civilization is objective, where you can say, what do you mean by objective and subjective?
Objective is to the point.
Objective means which you can measure, rate, rank, right? Subjective means you can't measure it, you can't rate or rank it, right? Subjective means it varies from person to person, the way one could look at it. But objective means you can tell, so this is the quantity, 4 kgs, 3 kgs, 5 kgs, like that. So here from their perspective, according to it, civilization is something objective, and culture largely refers to the differences in values and attitude. Okay, so there are archaeological anthropologists also who talk about increasing sophistication of material culture. This you will understand better again when we do the archaeology. Alright, so write the definitions of A.W. Green. Good, Ayushi. Are you getting what is anthropological approach? Anthropological approach, see, so far they have seen culture as something evolving, and when it evolves, it reaches to a stage, it becomes civilization. That is according to evolutionists, right? Then you have historian approach. Historians say that in a particular area, conditions are different, and because of those conditions, they'll become so developed that they have all these material conditions or material things which gives rise to civilization. So that is historian view. Then you have anthropological approach. Here they are trying to differentiate between the two, and they are saying that civilization is something objective and culture is something subjective, and which consists of beliefs and attitudes which can vary and you cannot measure them. Right. So A.W. Green defines civilization stating that culture becomes civilization only if it is containing certain things. Okay. A particular culture becomes civilization only if it is containing language, art, metallurgy, science, philosophy, division of labor, complex economy and political system. And what do the contemporary American anthropologists talk? They say that it is the outcome of adaptation. So you are going to some place and you are getting adapted there, right? Suppose you are visiting a Himalayan region. Now you are from this tropical area and you are from the sea level. Now you are going on to the top of Himalayas. Now you have to settle there. What you will do? You will try to find out some shelter. With the existing knowledge, you will try to bring out a shelter home, design a home over there, and you will try to cook food that is suited to your environment. So you are inventing things and getting all the things structured based on your ecology. Okay, so the conditions that are present around you are tuning your developments. So according to them, civilization is nothing but people are adapting to certain ecology, and in that process they developed the society, culture, economic organization, political organization. All these systems will develop over a period of time, and that leads to the civilization. Clear? Just try to understand things. You need not write in the verbatim. Okay, only definitions you have to write in verbatim, but what people are saying you can write in your own words, right? So when you write definition, what A.W. Green is saying, then you have to write he defines so and so. But when you are writing about other things, you can write in your own words. So I have given you multiple definitions. You can write one of the definition because everybody is anthropologist only here. But when you are writing views, specific person has to come in. When you are writing just civilization, you can write anyone's definition. But when you are writing the different views or approaches to civilization, then you have to write this. See, why am I giving this anthropological approach or different approaches in this? Because so far you might not have even listened to these approaches in civilization. We generally don't talk about it. But if a question is asked for 20 markers and if you are writing the same content that you have, it would not satisfy the demand of the question. So in that case, you definitely need something which is very enriching and relevant to the answer. So you can write the approaches. See, for every approach I gave so much of content. In the exam you cannot write all this content. So you should write in your own words, just include what thinker is saying. Are you getting my point? Right? So when you are writing answer, you should first begin with particular definition. So what definition did we see in the beginning for the civilization? That is the approach when we started approach. But very first page I told you two definitions. J.P. Gillins and J.L. Gillins, and we have seen McIver and Page. Right? So they have given certain definition. Right? So you can begin with those definitions and then you can write about the approaches. Is it clear? Ayushi and Vineet, is it clear? So now coming to relationship between the culture and civilization. You can just note down these things or try to understand, I will explain. So first thing, they are complementary. Okay, so one and other are interdependent on each other. So culture is dependent on civilization and civilization is dependent on the culture. How? You can see the example. Right, what do you understand from this example? In civilization, if you are creating something, suppose this in Indian civilization right now we have, you are creating something, right? So you are creating a robot, and that robot is consisting the features of your tradition. It is robot, it is mechanical, it is of the latest technology, but where from your thought process is coming, you are designing the shape of the robot in such a manner that shape is belong to the particular culture, right? So the kind of hairstyle given to the robot, or the kind of dressing sense, or the kind of shape that is given, it is based on your culture. So artifacts of the civilization are influenced by the mentifacts. That means the thought process of the culture. So whatever you are doing now, that like whatever the civilizational things are coming up. So why are you designing a chair in a particular manner? Why can't you keep your legs upside? Because you have been trained to do that way, because a person can sit in different ways. It has the part of the traditions or the values or the culture that we have learned. So culture includes everything that we have learned, right? We have learned in the past to sit in a particular manner, henceforth we are designing in that way, right? So today we have got recliners. And why don't we use recliners everywhere? Because we have learned to do that things in only particular time. So those artifacts, whatever that are being part of civilization or designed as a part of civilization, are results of the mentifacts of the culture. So that is what they are interdependent. Okay, and anything like how they are interdependent is that now you have coins. So when the coins that are designed, okay, maybe you create some different version or variety. So these variety of coins you start using. Now what happens, you use continuously and over a period of time. Now we are saying these are the coins of the period of Chhatrapati Shivaji or the Akbar or so and so person. Now the coins were part of civilizational aspect. But what did they gain importance? They gain the importance of culture. They have become cultural in nature over a period of time. Okay, so anything that is created as a part of civilization becomes part of culture. Okay, it is influenced by culture. It becomes cultural in nature. And whatever the civilizational that is being created is influenced by culture. Clear? Explain. Explain. What does this interdependence mean? How are they interdependent?
To say that artifacts are influenced by
What is artifact?
articles, period, or
Artifact is nothing but a material of a particular culture. It can be anything. If you find some material, archaeologists, they find artifacts. So they are finding a material of particular time period and they are calling it artifact. So artifact can be any material thing. So it can be of the past, present, future or anywhere, right? So now artifact, if you are making anything in your culture, so that is artifact. And whatever you are making or creating, that is influenced by your cultural thought. So civilization product is being influenced by culture, and culture is also influenced by civilization. How? How? Culture is also influenced by civilization. How? Because in the past, if you have seen, we don't let women to go out. We didn't let women to study. But civilization, when the technology has come, when the education has developed, when people can relate, understand things better. So at that point of time, we are restricting these aspects, that if elderly people are not allowing, we are telling them, you just stop. These things has to be encouraged. Women should also get equal education. So civilization is impacting culture and culture is impacting civilization. So these two are interdependent. I hope you are clear. Right. So these are the things like and first they are interdependent. Next, advanced stage. According to some people, civilization is the advanced stage of culture. And next you have cultural significance attained by the civilizational aspects. So I told you, right, some examples of coins, tools, they will attain the cultural significance over a period of time. Right. Again, the limiting factor, it puts the limitations, and you also have that they are both interactive. So I'll dictate the answer of culture and civilization. Just don't try to write anything of this. Just for your understanding, I have mentioned these things, but a proper answer how you should write in the exam, I'll be dictating now after this. Right. So now you have differences also. You have some relationship between them, interdependent, advanced significance of the culture and limitation on the culture. They are interactive also. So one help other, right? Now there are differences. You can't measure culture, whereas you can measure civilizational aspects. That is what we have seen, right? In anthropological approach, they are trying to say that only. Like they are trying to see it differently. That culture is subjective and civilizational is objective in nature. So when to the culture these objective things get added, that becomes civilization. So now civilization, on one hand you can measure it, on the other you cannot measure with respect to culture. Did you understand?
It's a bit tricky.
Tricky, yeah. Where is your attention span? First thing, it is simply talking that you can measure cultural, civilizational aspect. Because can you tell two dances which are present, which is good, which is bad? You cannot say, right? But you have bought two cars, you can say which is good, which is bad. How are you going to say? Not based on its beauty, rather based on its performance. You have the mileage, you have the horsepower, right? So durability, right? Civilizational aspect you can measure, but whereas on culture you cannot measure. That is very simple. How come it has become tricky for you?
So when comparing two civilizations, again it becomes subjective matter.
When comparing two civilizations.
Different civilizations. Egyptian with Indus Valley.
Why it becomes?
Because
What are you trying to compare?
Civilization as a whole.
So that's what you need to understand again here. What is civilization? Civilization is the objective part of the culture. Right? Objective part you can measure, you can compare. Why can't you compare? You can compare. Only thing, cultural parts you cannot compare, right? You cannot compare two cultures because we have already read cultural relativism. Or else, if you were studying only classical evolutionism, you would have done, right? You can compare cultures also, it's up to you, but only because you have read that cultural relativism, everyone is different and everybody's values are different. So their conditions and situations are different. So the developments are based on their past and their surrounding situations. So that's why we have learned that we should not judge others, or else like you can, right? Right, then changing nature. So both of them changes, but culture changes very slowly and civilization changes very rapidly. So cultural change is linear and civilizational change is exponential. Right? The change of culture is very slow. It might or might not change. It is linear in nature. Culture is always linear. Whereas civilization, it is changing rapidly and exponentially. Because technology changes. We were talking yesterday cultural lag. Right? So within the culture, there are objective parts that are called as civilization. That's what technology is changing rapidly. But your thought process is not. your thought process should also change. Your attention span has to increase. So you can see the example here that various elements of the civilization like means of transportation, communication, etc. are developing day by day. But we cannot assert that thoughts of today are superior to those of the past. Okay. Because like we have today some perceptions with respect to life. Previously people had some perceptions with respect to life. You cannot say whatever the perceptions we have toward life are better than what they have. Because it's all out of situations and the products of the time. At that particular point of time, that was the product. Today your time and your situations are different, your product will be different. So if you try to compare, that's why it's always said that don't judge the history. What we tend to do, like we try to compare the leaders, right? We tend to compare that who is good, who is bad. But we are not in their position at that point of time, what kind of circumstances are there, and because everything that comes is product of that particular time. Okay, henceforth anthropology makes us very neutral with respect to life. Right, coming to the next thing, borrowing. Okay, so again when you consider the civilizational aspects, it is easy to borrow. Today they invent some rifle and tomorrow you can import them and you can use it. But they are eating some kind of food in a particular manner. If you want to bring it to India and impose on anyone, somebody out of love, or I told you right, when the new interaction, when a person moves from one place to another out of fascination, in the beginning he might opt for it, but within few days he will give up. Honeymoon phase, right. So the thing is that it's easy to borrow the civilizational aspects, but it is very difficult to bring in the cultural aspects. Okay, it should happen voluntarily, but borrowing is difficult. Okay, so culture cannot be borrowed easily, whereas civilization can be borrowed easily. So that is one of the difference you can see. Again, do you think civilization can exist without culture? Can civilization exist without culture? See, it's very simple because if you normally think, what is civilization? Objective part of culture, right? So, where whatever the things you can measure, this technology, education, metallurgy, all these things, military, political system, economic system. Can this exist without culture? Without learning things, how can this come? Okay, what is culture? Everything that you learn after you take birth, and after that you learn to eat, sit, run, everything. This is part of culture. So without this, can these upper layers exist, these objective things? No, there is not, it's not a possibility, right? So no question at all. So civilization cannot exist with culture, but culture can exist without civilization, because not every culture has turned into civilization. And again, one more thing, this is the Western notion of talking about things. Okay, so that civilization, who has created this word? This word is created by them only. Alright, so many cultures are happy at the same time without any technology, anything like. So you should not consider civilization to be developed. This is all the imposition of the Western notion onto the people. Because when you see the topic of developmental anthropology, so there is a branch of anthropology that is known as developmental anthropology. Okay, so when this branch was created in 1970s or 71, some people, Kairani is the person who has led to the foundation of this branch, and when these people started, they said that like, what is development, what is happiness, it's all relative. and you trying to judge somebody that United Nations have brought Human Development Index. The development index consists of the characteristics or the features on which they judge, like they try to rate, are created by them. If somebody living within the forest, how does it matter to them whether you have education or you don't have education, whether you go to school or not? It doesn't matter. They were living very happily within their own sphere of life, right? So it's an imposition, and when you come to anthropology, you start thinking all these things. But again, since you are living this in this modern world, you should consider the reports of UN. Okay. Because like in the developmental anthropology, there is the article that has been published, research article. If you read that article, then you will get to know that like all the things of development, like what are the measurements that you choose to look whether a particular culture is developed or not, a particular society is developed or not. Those are all given by the people of the West, and from their point of view, they are trying to judge the development. Why African countries are backward? They are not backward. They were made backward by bringing in plantation. Okay, so what they were doing, they didn't have this sugar plantation or any other kind of plantations over there. These Britishers, they wanted slaves for their plantation to happen, for the exportation process, So they came here, they tried to impose things on them, and they have made their situations bad. But actually the original life they were living previously was very good. They were very prosperous. They were very prosperous. Right. So transmission, again you can see, product of civilization, can be enjoyed by everyone. Transmission can happen, like like already we have seen the process of cultural transmission, right? Different process. Acculturation, transculturation, and civilization also can be passed without any efforts, but culture, it can happen in different ways. Transmission of culture can happen in different ways, but civilization, it can easily transmit it, right? So then ways of expression. So this I have tried to provide a table, but again anyhow I'll be dictating the answer, please note down. So culture versus civilization, you can write culture and civilization or culture versus civilization. This is the question which has appeared in the exam, but this way of writing the answer, because you will be writing more about civilization or more about culture, then that would lead to the imbalanced answer. So I tried to include some points. Write down. So first you should write the definition of culture. E.B. Taylor definition of culture. Just put definition of E.B. Taylor of culture.
Culture was the civilization question. Answer.
Yeah, answer. I am not getting this. So, introduction, first definition of culture by E.B. Taylor, then definition of civilization. You can write any definition, but again going with the famous ones. Okay, so this you do it first, and then after that you write the relationship between the two, because any time a versus or and, if it is mentioned, okay, generally in the exam they will give civilization and culture, race and ethnicity, Dharma and Buddhism. So like this, when they give, you should keep in mind that you should not write about the individual aspect. Don't write everything about culture in one page and everything about civilization in one page. If you write that way, you will never get the score in the exam. Just keep this in mind. You should always write. Why is he giving and? He can give A, culture, and B, civilization. Why is he using this? Using that conjunction in between? He wants us to understand the relation. Okay, whether there are differences, whether there are similarities, whether one is influencing the other, or they are completely separate. If sometimes if there is no relation, you write there is no relation. But if there is relation, you should always write about it. So keep in mind that you have to write about it. So next put the body, that is relationship between the two. Subheading relationship between culture and civilization. Okay.
Sir, why only definition by AWS?
You can write any definition. That is famous definition that I have used. So first, relationship between the two, interdependent and interactive. So first is interdependent and interactive. Okay, write the explanation of it. Culture needs civilization. Culture needs civilization for further growth. And culture needs civilization for further growth, and civilization needs culture, and civilization needs culture as its vital force. Civilization needs culture as its vital force, and thus its survival. And thus its survival. Okay, be quick. So first relationship you are writing, and then you write that what first is they are interdependent and interactive. Then you write the evolutionists like Tyler, Morgan, Fraser said that civilization is apex stage of culture or highest stage of culture. So according to evolutionists, civilization is apex stage or highest stage of culture or cultural development. Okay, next. Write down objects of civilization. Objects of civilization after a period of time acquire cultural significance. Objects of civilization after a period of time acquire a cultural significance. Examples you can write: coins, tools, cloths, etc. become symbols of a society culture. Okay, so whatever the civilizational objects are there, they become this. Example: coins, tools, cloths, etc. become symbols of a society's culture. you can write J.L. Gillin and J.P. Gillin opine, J.L. Gillin and J.P. Gillin opine, civilization is a more complex, and evolved form of culture. Civilization is a more complex and evolved form of culture. Alright. Next, civilization, fourth point. Civilization tries to put certain limitations on culture. Civilization tries to put certain limitations on the culture. Civilization tries to put certain limitations on the culture, comma, by determining the degree to which cultural activities can be pursued. By determining the degree to which cultural activities can be pursued. Okay. You write one more point. Alright. Civilization is the driving force of society and culture. Civilization is the driving force of the society. Civilization is the driving force of the society, and culture is its steering wheel. Civilization is the driving force and culture is its steering wheel. Change in culture, it's done. Culture is its steering wheel, full stop. Change in culture results in the change in civilization. Change in culture results in change in civilization. So you can write Ogborn has talked about it, Ogborn and Nimcoff, William Ogborn. So we have seen that William Ogborn's cultural lag, right? So you should recall immediately, right? Ogborn, Nimcoff, William Ogborn and Nimcoff, right? Opines civilization may be defined as a later phase of the superorganic culture. Civilization may be defined as the later phase of superorganic culture. See, why did I bring this? Actually, if you have seen the slides there, I didn't include it. Right, Ogborn and Nimcoff, according to them, the civilization is the later phase of superorganic view of culture. Okay, so now what is superorganic view of culture?
Beyond the organic view.
Right, so what is beyond?
Normal.
What all things are beyond the normal individual according to few people? We have seen L. Kroeber, Leslie White, Radcliffe Brown, these all people have said that some parts of the culture are beyond the individual and they are operating themselves, they have their own rules and logic, right? So they have become autonomous and self-perpetuating entities, right? So what all are those parts? I told you, right? Language, religion. So these things you should immediately recall. Okay, now if you see here, what we are talking civilization when the culture attains language, metallurgy, technology. So when the superorganic part comes, then that is called as civilization. Okay, civilization is the later phase of superorganic culture, according to them. So that means they are trying to say what we have learned, right? Are you getting my point? These things you should be able to relate, or else like a subject feels very boring. If you are not relating what you have learned, so you already learned that superorganic view of culture, right? There, what did they say? Superorganic culture. Superorganic culture is something beyond. So what is beyond? That were language, religion, and these parts. Now what we are saying, civilization. Civilization is something when culture attains language, technology, all these things. So that is the reason they are saying it. Civilization is the later phase of superorganic culture, right? Now you should understand that if you have learnt something, if you are spending some time, you should ensure that it is used in some or the other place, or else it's waste of your energy. Now this thing you can use in your answer of superorganic view of culture, right? So you can use this person, because when you are learning, why don't you write? Okay, so these are the relationship and interrelation, and now write the differences between the culture and civilization. Just put this box and try to write it, but in the exam you should not write it separately, you should write it as a statement only. Here for your understanding, like I am just showing you like this. So according to McIver, there are these certain differences between them. First, precise standard of measurement, you cannot measure there. So just write it and write it in your own words later on. Okay. So for civilization, you have precise standard of measurement, and for culture, you don't. Measurement, you have precise standard and you cannot measure culture. Next, it is always advancing. Culture is always advancing. Sorry, civilization is always advancing. Culture may or may not advance. Ayushi, Vinith, are you clear? Do you have any doubts? So if you are having any doubts, immediately drop the text. I will just go through and I will discuss them. Okay. And next, third, elements of civilization can be borrowed without change. Loss. Civilization you can borrow without loss, change, right? There, if you want to borrow anything, if you are taking any technology, there won't be any much protest, there won't be any loss or change. But if you are trying to borrow any culture, it is not so easy.
The elements of civilizations can be borrowed easily.
Civilization can be borrowed easily. Can be borrowed easily without change, loss or protest. But that's not the case in case of culture. Again, you write the transmission. Transmission without efforts across generation. Civilization can be transmitted across generations without efforts. But if you have to transmit the culture across generation, it depends on the nature of the people, personality, and the efforts are needed to do. If you have to transmit culture, it takes a lot of efforts. It depends on the nature of people and at the same time personality as well. Okay, so it is easily transmitted. Transmission to next generation, it's easy. and it's difficult over here. So civilization is a bigger unit than culture, and whereas culture is a comparatively smaller unit. So one more thing which you have to write, which you may not understand now, because this is interrelation of some other part of the syllabus. The contemporary relevance, you can just keep a subheading, contemporary relevance. Neo-evolutionists, we have read classical evolutionism, right? So there is one more theory, that is neo-evolutionism. So they have said, neo-evolutionists opine that advancement in culture is observed with higher ability to exploit environment. So culture, if it is advancing fastly, that means they are exploiting the environment fastly. So the advancement of culture is dependent on the exploitation of environment. If your ability is higher, then you will exploit. So next, highly observable in the today's civilizational aspect, which is very highly observable in the today's civilizational aspects. So then you can conclude at the conclusion, summing up the words of MacIver. In the conclusion you can write, summing up the words of MacIver, civilization, you can write civilization is what we have culture is what we are, inverted commas close. Right, this is how you can conclude, and this should be the ideal answer for your exam. And I think it's easy only. All the things I tried to put it in less space, because if you see there are too many things, and if you write on explaining the same thing, it will occupy more number of lines. So I tried to cut short the sentences, yet made concise, enriched information. And again, one more thing, that if a question asks only civilization, then first you have to write the definition of civilization, then approaches of civilization, okay, then features of civilization. Okay, when you write approaches, within that you have the features also, and then you compare how is it different from the culture. Okay, just show that okay, civilization is the highest stage of development according to many people, and it is related to culture, it acquires its significance from the culture over a period of time, and at the same time it is easily transmitted. These are all features. See, you have read the differences, you remove one side of civilization and write all the features of culture. You remove culture and write all the features of civilization. Those 5-6 points, whatever you have written, that would again be valid in that answer as well. So you should intelligently utilize all the information that you are reading now. Again, if you read the other answers, like suppose civilization question has come, And now what people do is that there will be some other answer written by some other person. Now they will try to read it and they will try to write that. You are unnecessarily increasing your burden. You have already learned things. So you should know how to use this. But you should know the structure, definition, what is civilization. Then you will write approaches to civilization. Then you will write the features of civilization. Whether civilization is always positive or how is it different from the culture. Then you will write the conclusion. Right?
Sir, conclusion to super-organic view of culture.
Conclusion to super.
Answer.
That means you didn't understand why. Yesterday only I told you, right? Edward Sapir says that you should not get into those things.
Okay, that
That is the conclusion.
criticism on.
It's not the criticism, that rather he says that why to get into that aspect of classifying, because of the dynamism involved. Right. So we have talked about it. Okay. So now moving to the diffusionism. Is everything clear? Even online? Right. So now again, these theories are very simple and you should not complicate things. Okay. And if you have seen, the questions are also very less. Wherever the theories becomes important, I will emphasize myself to give you more and more information. And wherever they are less important, I am trying to cover what is more than sufficient again. But still, I don't want you to invest too much of energies. What they'll do, they'll read these first energies so much, by the time important theories come, they lose energy to read. They won't have the energy. So save your energy wherever it is needed. Now we have done 2.1, entire 2.1. So you have 3 to 4 questions: culture, civilization, is cultural relativism, ethnocentrism, is culture unique to human beings. These are the 4 questions. Other than these 4 questions, I don't think any question can come any time also. They might try to tweak the question a little bit, but again they will ask the same thing. So keep in mind where to invest your energies. Don't waste your energy. It is very much precious. It looks like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, but now you do something which is unnecessary, automatically will makes you stay away from what is important, because that day you don't feel energetic and you'll do with force. Okay, I have to finish it, that's why I'll do it, not with the interest. So that mistake you should not commit. So what is diffusion and what is diffusionism? What do you understand by diffusion? Diffuse, from the word you can understand, I guess. Not differential. That's exactly, it's spreading only. So when you are trying to understand the social change, okay, like what did we study in classical evolutionism? We are trying to study the change of culture and society, right? We try to study. Here also we are trying to study the change of culture and society again, but we are trying to look at it in a different format, different way. So previously, the British school, evolutionist school have said that culture evolves over a period of time in different stages because of the psychic unity of mankind, that too in a unilinear fashion. They did not do any field work, okay, and they believed people everywhere are equally intelligent, right? But these people say that, no, we don't agree with you, Mr. Taylor, that because we don't think people everywhere are equally inventive. No, it is easy to borrow the inventions rather than inventing. Okay, For a human it is easy to take from somebody. So they say that people everywhere are not equally inventive. So they accepted evolution is happening, change is happening, but they did not accept the thought of evolutionism. Right? So that is diffusionism. They said that cultural change is happening because of the diffusion. That means at one place the invention is happening and from there things are spreading to other parts of the world. So that's how the cultural change is happening. So they are trying to study the change of the culture in terms of diffusion. So that's why this theory is called as diffusionism. Are you understanding? Clear? Right, again the same approach that you should keep in mind. What is the historical background? So why did it come? First they did not accept the evolutionist point of view. So that's why they came in reaction of the evolutionists. And at the same time, evolutionists, what did they do? They are called as armchair anthropologists or conjecturalists. So this word you need to remember, conjecturalism. That means imagination. So they sat there, they were thinking and they wrote the books. Right. So that's how they try to express things. So they are against the conjecturalism, that's why they have come. Okay, so 3 reasons for emergence. First, strong reaction against the classical evolutionism. Again, they have started seeing more number of cultures because of colonialism. They are going to new places and they are seeing the new cultures. And what all these people, evolutionists, have said is not seen on the ground. So then they started thinking, and even like many Christian missionary activities were happening. What happened? You want to see the slide? Anyhow, we'll share them. Right now these things are, like, try to understand. Okay, we'll share the slides. If don't note it down, we'll try to quickly wrap up these things. Okay, I'm just trying to find out that digital writing board where I can keep, so that I can write the things, you can also write it. But for these theories, I don't think you should invest your energy, even I don't want to. Okay, I'll explain everything, but now writing and investing energy is not suggested. So what are the reasons for emergence? First, strong reaction against the classical evolutionism. You are also seeing many cultures because of colonialism, and you are seeing what classical evolutionists said is not visible on the ground. So because of that, these people opposed classical evolutionism, but they did not reject the evolution. So they considered diffusion, evolution, both goes hand in hand for the change of the culture. Okay, so there are different schools and different thinkers. So moving to the, so this is the definition of the diffusion. Diffusion means nothing but what do you call spread. How the spread will happen? It might be when you come in contact with one another, you will try to give and take, right? So that's how the spread happens. So diffusion can be defined as a process by which discrete cultural traits are transferred from one culture or society to another through migration, trade, war, or direct contacts. So anything can be the reason. So when you are analyzing the process of diffusion, that becomes the diffusionism. How it is happening, if you are trying to see, then that's the theory. Right? So next, coming to the premises. So you need to understand carefully that once you understand one theory, the next theory is related to it. Right? So we are going in a proper order and proper fashion, so that you are also able to link it. Okay. So now first they have given the concept of psychic unity of mankind. Now these people are saying that psychic unity of mankind we don't accept, because people are not equally inventive and innovative in every place, right? And next, invention depends on what factors? Your surroundings, like in which ecological areas you are residing, right? So if you are residing somewhere in the cold place, then you will invent things according to your comfort. If you are residing in the desert, then your things will be different. So invention happens according to that. At the same time, sociological factors, that means education, health, economic, political systems. Based on that your inventions will depend, right? And it's not same everywhere. Henceforth they say that inventions happen at some places and they are diffused to other places. Okay, so if these factors are present, it leads to the creation. And we all know that people, see, these are all things before telling the theory. Before giving the theory, they are having these things in mind, that people are not equally innovative. So if they are not equally innovative, if the people are not equally innovative, that means they get to learn from other people. Okay, so now people come in contact with one another, maybe because of the trade, war, for various purpose, right? So because of traveling. So in this process, when you go to some other country, you learn something and you will bring and you will try to implement it, right? The same happens with other things as well. Alright, so people are not stationary, they keep on moving, and because of that the things come in contact with one another and it leads to the exchange of traits of one culture with the other. So these are the basic premises. Are you clear till here? You have any doubt? So diffusion can be different types, direct, indirect. So suppose direct means like you went to America and you have seen their dressing style and you thought that like now I should not use dhoti in festivals, rather I should use the western jeans. Okay, you have come in direct contact, you have bought jock engines and you came to India. That is direct contact. But for me, I don't have that affordability, so I was watching an advertisement at my home. There I saw the advertisement that jeans appear better. So now I bought it from my own store nearby, okay, instead of going to US. So the same way we both bought, but one is it direct contact, other is indirect through an indirect medium, right? So direct way of diffusion can happen, indirect way of diffusion can happen, right? So next, symmetrical, asymmetrical. That means you will give something and you will take something. That is symmetrical. So both exchanges, and only if one person is borrowing, that is asymmetrical. Right? So active, passive. If you are doing voluntarily, so since you have liked it or since I have liked it, it is voluntary. That means active diffusion. Or passive diffusion, they will only say that you are using coal. Are you mad? You are using coal to brush your teeth. Charcoal. You are mad. You should use the toothpaste. They will introduce the thing. And after few days, they will only say that, are you mad? You are using chemicals. Use charcoal based toothpaste. So the thing is that active diffusion can happen, passive diffusion. So when they keep on telling these things, you gave up on charcoal first because of passive diffusion of the trait of the toothpaste. Now just they want to increase their sales, they have introduced new version. But previously passive diffusion happened. We started using the toothpaste by replacing the charcoal. So now in every home you have toothpaste. So that is passive diffusion. It's not active diffusion. You didn't voluntarily go for it. They made you to go for it. Okay. So cultural traits, again one more thing. So if things are coming from one place to other or one society to other, so traits are moving from one society or culture to other. I told you when comparing civilization and culture, civilization can be borrowed easily without any change. But culture, cultural trait, when it is being borrowed, you will have a change in it. It gets diluted. Okay. So over distance, right? So based on the distance or based on the thing. So you can see, and again in many of the cases people only accept what is meaningful to them and they reject what is not liked. So I have already shown you the example here, Cohn's example, which you can write. So some are modified, some are rejected, some are accepted. There are 3 schools. Ayushi, are you clear with what we are discussing? Any doubts? Any doubts, Saitya? Vineet, I'll give you the slides. I'll upload in the portal. That there you can write it again. But no need to worry. You try to understand what is being said. Do you have any doubt? Right. So if you have a doubt, please drop. Okay. So we have three schools of diffusionism. First is British school, then is Austro-German school, then you have American school. So British school is also known as extreme school of diffusionism. Why? Because in the British school, what happens, they say that culture originated in one place. See, first of all, one person is archaeologist, one person is a teacher. So one person agreed with the, Elliot Smith says that he goes on archaeological excavation to pyramids, and then he sees that so much of development over there. He thinks that Egypt is the center or origin of civilization, and from here only things spread. That's why it is known as heliocentric. That means just like sun at one place, from there it originates and it spreads. Okay. So the first, because they are telling that it is originated at one place, that's why they are called extremist school. Not ethnocentric, extremist. Ethno means you are trying to judge. Here there is no comparison, right? They are telling that it originated here and went to other places.
They are centering their culture.
They are telling it originated, but they did not rate, right? They are not telling who is good, who is bad, or what is happening. Okay? Clear?
Okay.
Yeah. So next you have W.J. Perry. He also talks the same. He is considered as teacher. He is the teacher, and he also talks the same. And one person who is different from these two in this school is that Rivers. Rivers says that there is not one center, rather there are many centers of origin of civilization, origin of culture or traits. Okay. So next you have Cultural Cree school, and you have three more people over there, and American school, Clark Whistler, Kroeber. These are the two people in the American school. We will discuss each school in greater detail. Coming to British school, so I think you can easily understand this. There is nothing in this theory. First to study diffusion, they are called extremist school. First two people, and there is separate school within the British, that is Rivers school. So here Smith, he went to Egypt to study the anatomy of mummies. So when he went there, he stayed in Egypt and he came in contact with Egyptian civilization and got impressed and said that it is the cradle of the civilization, and from here only spread it to the other places. Okay. So next Perry, who is a school teacher, fully supported the Smith. Okay. And he wrote a book, Children of the Sun, in which he called Egypt as the center of civilization. Both Smith and Perry assume that civilization is spread to the remaining places from the Egypt. These are the extremist people. And Rivers said that no, you have to understand that it is from many places. How did he get in? First, Rivers was evolutionist. Okay, initially he was evolutionist and he was doing the field work. He did study in India, Toda tribe. Okay, where are Toda tribe located? Tamil Nadu. Toda tribe of Tamil Nadu. Right, they are located in, and he also studied Melanesian islanders. Okay, so there also he studied the tribes. So after doing the field work, then he gave up the classical evolutionism and he became diffusionist at later phase of life. Okay, his version of diffusionism is different from the Smith and Perry. According to him, there are many centers of origin of civilization. So one line has been again written in 2 to 3 pages. Right? So what I have said, they said Egypt is center and it spread to many places. He says that not one center, rather there are many centers. Okay, so you can just go through this. Again, same explanation. So what is the job of anthropologist? Is to find the path of diffusion. Okay, what is your job? Your job is to find the path. Any doubt in this? So what things you have to focus here is that first, here only one center, it spreads. In the process of spreading, it gets diluted. What's your job? To find how it happened. Right? Next, here he says that no, many centers, and at the same time it is a local process. Here one more thing what he has said is that field work is an important tool to find out. So go do the work over there and get to know about it, not just rather than sitting and trying to understand from here. So one point which you have to remember is that field work. He says it's important, but they have done it in a rudimentary form. Okay, proper field work comes with the participant observation of Malinowski. Nor like he has said, you have seen L.H. Morgan, he studied that League of Iroquois book, Iroquois Indians while he was studying, he just talked about the field work. He has done the field work but not in the proper fashion. Again here also the same thing. Okay, so dilution of a culture is part of diffusion according to him. So now what you will do, you will study all the cultural traits from the center of civilization, observe in other places if there are same cultural traits, and if the same are there, then you will say that it is because of diffusion. Alright? Anil, any doubt? Sai Teja? Nidra vastunda? Okay. So Rivers also mentioned the need of fieldworks to find out the spread of fieldwork should be there to find out the spread of culture to other places, okay, or the spread of civilization. Now criticism. So what is the criticism? You are taking one civilization, you are talking with single study of civilization, you are trying to generalize things. So that is not encouraged. Okay. So now you have said that Egypt is center. What is the proof? Did you show any evidence? No, right? So there is no evidence. Again, they are also imagining things. They said that they are against evolutionists because they are imagining, and they also join them. Right? Imagination means the word conjecturalism or conjecturalist. Right? Again, ignore the analysis of non-material culture. Now you are trying to see that there and here the things are similar or not. But you are not considering the ideas, thoughts, values, you are just considering the material aspect. So non-material aspect is ignored completely, non-material part of culture. Again, wrong assumptions about the equal inventiveness of man. Okay. So whether man is equally inventive or not, we don't know, but their assumptions that they have made that man is not equally inventive is wrong. Okay. So this is with respect to British school. So then what is Austro-German school? Austro-German school says that culture originates in some place. They don't say that it originates only in one place. They say that in some place culture will civilization will develop, culture will originate, and things will develop over a period of time, and they will become civilization. Now from here it spreads. How does it spread? It spreads like a ripples of water, which is called culture crease. Culture crease means it spreads like a ripples of water. Okay, so henceforth this school is known as culture crease school. So if they give what is culture crease, you have to write about these things. It was given by these thinkers of the Austro-German school: Wilhelm Schmidt, Fritz Grabner, Leo Frabnis. Okay. What are the basic premises? Many centers, spreads like ripples. What one should do? Analyze diffusion with respect to time and space. Okay. So what they are saying, many centers of origin, it spreads like ripples. Now what you should do as an anthropologist? You should understand how the diffusion has happened. You should analyze with time and space. Okay. So they said no imagination, no conjecturalism. So material is given more importance. So material culture must be given primary importance. German school was concerned about the demonstration of both material and non-material, but primary to material, because no conjecturalism. Right? So to understand and analyze the diffusion process, they have used two criteria. One is quantitative criteria and other is qualitative criteria. So what is this qualitative criteria? Who gave it? Fritz Grabner. He says that suppose we are from different cultures. Okay, you are from some particular culture and I am from particular culture. Now you have the watch, I also have the watch, right? First the diffusionist will come and they will take the two watches and they will try to see all the reasons for possibility of similarities. Okay, that is, we both are having similar watches. Then now they will first see that all the possibilities, they will check maybe because of innovation, invention, same study or same company or something. They will check all the possibilities. If nothing is working out, then they will say that it is because of diffusion. Okay. First you eliminate all other possibilities for the similarity, and then you will come to the conclusion, if no chance that by any other factor, then it should be because of diffusion. Okay. So this is the qualitative criteria. So when similarities between two cultural elements cannot be explained on the basis of nature, material or the purpose, then one can say with certainty that similarities can be because of diffusion, irrespective of the distance. Okay. So right. Hence, before concluding diffusion as the reason of cultural similarity, anthropologists have to eliminate all the factors which can lead to the similarity. So example has been given by given as bow and arrow between Africa and India. So there is a red thread that is tied to the bow and arrow. Okay. Red thread is tied in Africa also, in India also. So no other reason was there. So they said that it is because of diffusion only. Next, quantitative criteria. You look more the similar. See, you take two elements of different cultures, and if there are more similarities, that means it is because of diffusion. So that is quantitative criteria. This is given by Schmidt and Grabner. Okay. So this was given by Grabner and this is by Wilhelm Schmidt and Grabner. So what he says, that when number of similar cultural traits is more, you take two cultures and if there are more traits which are similar, so two cultures have more similarity, it is due to diffusion. Okay. So as per Austro-German school, so you can just put it circles and you can show through the diagram also, but here no need to do that. Okay. So while examining historical connection between two cultures, one must look at both criteria together. Austro-German school criticism. What is the criticism?
Both the criteria are contradicting to each other. Before, no similarities, then diffusion.
You can use any, not using two at a time. If you are trying to understand, you can use any of them. They have given two criteria. You can use any of the criteria.
Then everything is different. Like
That is what comes under the criticism part. Right. So here we should not become the judges. We should understand what they are saying, because in the initial stage, so that's the product of their time when they are trying to understand the social change. Today you have all the theories with you, now you have understood everything, that's why you are trying to say it, but at that point of time it's a product of time. So they used imagination at some places despite saying that they should not be conjecturalists, and Robert Lewis also says that they are unable to demonstrate with respect to time and space. Okay, so they did not say at what time it has happened. Next, they did not talk about the non-material culture. So they said that they will talk both, they will give more importance to material, but if you see overall, they did not talk about the non-material cultures. So this is Austro-German school. Then you have the comparison of British and Austro-German school. So I'll give you this, you can just go through so that you can write an answer if at all if they ask. So in the worst possibility they might ask question of diffusionism, then in that case you have things ready for you, at least these 7 to 8 points, right? You have understood both, right? Any doubts? So moving to the American school of diffusionism. So again, American school, you see the historical background, it's very simple. Just try to understand. The thinkers are Whistler and Kroeber. What are they saying? First of all, Whistler was a student and colleague of Franz Boas. Franz Boas don't encourage any conclusions. He cultural relativist, right? So he has his own methods, right? So he acted as a link between the American and German schools. So both Boas and Whistler were against the use of three-group classification that was done by the evolutionists. Okay, so Whistler found that there is a similarity among these cultural elements that are belonging to the same geographical area. First of all, you need to understand they have worked in a museum. There is a museum, National Museum of US, and when they are working there, so as archaeology in the archaeological museum, so they have seen that when all the things are placed over there, they have seen similarities in the one geographical area. So all the elements or traits belonging to the one particular area have more similarities. So he predicted diffusion as the reason behind this similarity. So in this area, like if you take India, so Andhra Pradesh, so in this area of Andhra Pradesh there are similarities. So if you see Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Karnataka, so if you take South Indian states, so there are similarities in the traits of these cultures, traits of these areas. So he says that okay, this similarity is because of diffusion. How did they come up with this concept altogether? They were working in that place, they have seen all this. So when they have seen all this, they are getting okay, it's looking same, it's almost same. Then they have said that okay, diffusion as a reason has been predicted. Okay, and to understand it, they developed the age area, cultural area approach. So now, if there are what is cultural area, what is age area, I'll dictate, then you can note down. Okay, so they use these methods to understand. Alright, this was the historical background of American School of Diffusion. So you can see diffusion of culture from one place to other works by process of imitation. It is easy to borrow rather than inventing, okay, or imitate. Adaptation of cultural traits depends on the needs of the society, and diffusion of traits is more common in a geographical area because that is what they have seen. These are all the premises, okay. So we must use what approach? Culture area approach. So what is culture area? Cultural area is the area in which there are similar cultural traits. What is cultural core? Cultural core is the center of the cultural area where the important cultural traits would have originated. So they'll use the words cultural core, cultural area. These things you should be very clear, okay. So when you're reading, don't try to get confused. Cultural area, where the area in which there are similar cultural traits, okay. So till what extent you have the similar cultural traits, you draw a map, that becomes a cultural area. And what is cultural core or cultural center? So cultural core is nothing but center of cultural area. So you have cultural area, in that there is center where the origin of cultural traits would have happened. Okay, maybe in an area there might be a hill. So from that area things would have developed and slowly it has spread to the other places. So like that. So then you have age area. Okay, so first of all, see, this study has been done by Whistler. So he studied 300 tribes from North America, and he has classified he has seen similarity of salmon fish being eaten. So he has classified culture area, okay, North Pacific coast, and he has classified wild seals in California, agriculture in USA, Mexico and Peru. Like this he has drawn the cultural areas. Okay, this is how he has tried to understand the diffusion. Okay, diffusion has happened in this area, and that is the reason from one place it spread to all this area, and now the culture area is formed. So if you have to understand diffusion or the social change, you have to do it through culture area approach. Okay, so then he talked about age area. So what is age area? Age area is so now this is cultural area where you have the similar cultural traits. This is the cultural core. From here, this is the cultural core. From here, the trait spread to this place, trait spread to this place, trait spread to this place. Okay, so this has spread. Now he tries to say that the farther the distance from the cultural center, the farther the distance, that means greater the age. Okay, it has spread long time before, right? If closer the distance, that means the trait might have been spread recently. So greater age, larger age area or smaller age area. Okay, so this is the greater age area and this is the smaller age area. So age, he tries to say based on the distance that you can see. Okay. Okay. All right. So larger area, older diffusion. So that means it has passed to greater. So age of diffusion of a cultural trait, if a smaller area, then recent diffusion. So now again, this is practical approach than the before, still the criticisms are there. Because now you see, he said salmon fish and agriculture. There are people who are doing agriculture in the area that has been drawn in salmon fish, and those who are eating salmon fish in the agriculture area. So now where you will draw the exact boundary, and if you are doing at a world level, how will you map these cultural areas? This was not clear, and he was criticized for that. Okay, so where will you draw the boundary? Because some people are doing both the things in some areas. So cultural traits are similar in both the areas, right? So you can't draw the exact map, that would be the issue. So Whistler was uncertain about the wideness, how much wide you can draw that culture area. So these are all limitations at the world level as well. And here you are overemphasizing on the material culture. Right? Is it clear? Next, coming to Kroeber. He gives the theory of birth and death of civilization. Kroeber gives the theory of birth and death of civilization. So he was interested in macro analysis. See, these are micro things, whether the cultural trait is going or coming. These are, I am not interested. I want to see at the larger picture. So you people might be interested, but we are not. So we want to look at the macro picture. So this is what he was telling to the other two people. Okay, Clark Whistler and again the Bose also. So he says that his theory bases similar to the Whistler's theory, that culture area, cultural complex, cultural center, cultural climax. Okay, what is cultural climax? I'll tell you. First he says that every culture in the beginning, it keeps borrowing, it takes things from the other cultures. Okay, once it reaches to the climax, that means once it reaches to the maximum, it starts becoming arrogant and rejecting the things, and that's where the fall starts. Okay, so this arrogance leads to the rigidity in the culture and finally to the death of civilization. So when you are writing your answer of culture and civilization, this point you can write in your answer. I was just waiting that when you complete this, you can write this point. So you should understand that how you will interlink, how you will bring thinkers to the different parts of the syllabus. You should understand this part. Okay, so not just randomly reading, because this might not be asked, but still if civilization question is asked, you can write. A.L. Kroeber in his book The Birth and Death of Civilization, in his theory, has said that initially the cultures are open to the other cultural traits, but then it becomes rigid, and that leads to the cultural climax and it leads to the death of the civilization. Right? So his idea was carried forward by Robert Redfield. So distance between high and low culture, that is great tradition, middle tradition, which is again a part of our paper 2, which we will be studying in a greater detail. So again, when you are writing your paper 2, why did I mention it here? The thing is that when you read paper 2 tomorrow, at that point of time, you should use this A.L. Kroeber over there. When you are talking about Robert Redfield, little and great tradition, you should write about A.L. Kroeber also. So when you are writing about A.L. Kroeber, you write paper 2. So this interlinking should happen. Okay, and next, in India, this theory was applied by many other people, but that you will understand better. Shit. I'm sorry. Okay. That's all. This is with respect to American school of diffusionism. Right? You have understood diffusionist theory, right?
Criticism on this.
Criticism is that the same thing, right? Criticism of A.L. Kroeber. A.L. Kroeber criticism we don't have, because he has talked about the birth and death of civilization. So even it was agreed that when the cultures becomes rigid, the death of the civilization happens. Right. So far I haven't seen question of UPSC being asked in my journey 10 years on diffusionism. So you have understood everything, we have covered each and everything. This would be more than sufficient to write the answer, but energy should go on to the right place. So simple thing, these are the people, what did they say, what was their background, which form, like if you see British people, they were like, sorry, British school, what did they say? Heliocentric origin, one place, it spread to different places, and from there you have to find the path. But anyhow, they are having this conjecturalist attitude, and they were bothered only about the material aspect, non-material, they did not think of. And coming to American school, now they have, Austro-German school, they are saying culture carries, like from one place to other, it spreads like ripples, and that's what they said. Afterwards, again, they'll talk about quantitative and qualitative criteria, and again, they also have the criticism. Then American school, that is Clark Whistler, and then A.L. Kroeber. Whistler's is the culture area, age area approach. A.L. Kroeber also, again, A.L. Kroeber also used this, what do you call, concepts of Whistler, same culture area, age area. That criticisms you can write it to Kroeber also, because he used those concepts. But I introduced something new to you, that where he talked about birth and death of civilization, and interlinking that to that your paper 2.1. Okay, so that is the reason I have introduced A.L. Kroeber here, like, or else A.L. Kroeber will just say that same culture climax, culture area approach. Okay, these are the things, right? So next you have
particular
So next we have historical particularism by Franz Boas. Should we do? It doesn't take much time. We'll finish it off. Okay. So Franz Boas, basically, he was geographer. So he has his background from mathematics and physics, and then he goes to geography. On one day he goes for an expedition to Baffin Island. At that point of time his thought was geography will determine the culture. So you are in which geography you are there, so based on that your culture will be there. So that is the thought process that he had. Geography determines culture. Okay, so right, geography determines culture. That was his thought process. But later on what happened, after some period of time, when he went to the Baffin Island expedition, there he saw the tribes over there. So you have seen that in that geography, same geography itself, different cultures were there. So then he thought that, okay, this geographical determinism concept is not right, so we have to give up on this. And then he gave up and he moved towards the historical particularism thought. Okay, that's initial background of Franz Boas. So Franz Boas later on he moved to the historical particularism. So from his study, what he has found out is that from this he has found out that you should not generalize things. Okay, what classical evolutionists did, right? They tried to generalize things. They said that, okay, we move from one stage to other stage, savagery to barbarism to civilization, right? So this is what they have said. They have said everywhere people are thinking in same manner. They have made the generalization. But Franz Boas says that it is not the right thing to do. Why? Because first, even Lester Ward is one of the founding father of American sociology. even he was accepting the generalizations. Okay, at that point of time when everybody is after generalization, nobody is talking about the facts and the science. At that point of time, Franz Boas is one of the anthropologists who was talking that you should not accept generalization unless and until you have the facts. Okay, so he says that you should go do the field work, get the facts. Okay, you see everything, as many facts as possible. What is the name of the book of Franz Boas that I have told you? That is with respect to cultural relativism. One more book. Social Organization and Secret Societies of Hokitul Indians. Right? So, there while telling about cultural relativism I told. So, in that book you can see it is a reflection of so many facts and data collected by Franz Boas. He collected too much of data. So, what he says that first thing, no generalization. First gather, do the field work, get the data, arrange the data systematically. When you arrange that data systematically, then see all the possibilities, then you come to a conclusion. Till then, no generalizations. Okay. So, the method that he has used is known as inductive method. Okay. So, previously I told you the difference between diachronic approach and synchronic approach. Diachronic means if you read in a vertical timeline, synchronic means if you are doing in a particular timeline. Okay. So, this is synchronic, this is diachronic. Now, one more thing you need to understand is deductive and inductive approach. Inductive and deductive, this is this you should be very clear that deductive approach is something. Okay. Deductive approach is something, first you think about something and you try to make a conclusion, and after that you are trying to verify it and prove it. So, first you will say that biryani is good, but what you will do? You will go and you will check it that okay, this particular kind of biryani is only good, not all the biryanis are good, right. So, you are trying to verify and prove it. First you will make a conclusion, then you will try to verify and prove it. Okay, that is deductive approach. What is inductive approach? You will not make a conclusion. First you will try to collect the things, you will study, okay, you will get all the information that is necessary, and then you will try to find out and make a conclusion from it. Did you understand what is deductive and inductive approach? Deductive means you make a conclusion and now you are working to prove that hypothesis or the conclusion that you have made. But whereas inductive approach, you will do all the efforts, you will try to gather the facts and you will try to prove and you will try to give a conclusion. So, Franz Boas went for an inductive approach and not deductive approach. That is the reason he is telling collect as much as facts as possible. Alright. So, from this he will try to study things, and he is also known as father of American anthropology. I have told you yesterday, and he has given the concept of cultural relativism, which we read elaborately, and at the same time he has divided anthropology into 4 branches that we study in our anthropological subject, that is socio-cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, linguistic anthropology and archaeological anthropology. These are the 4 branches that he has divided anthropology into, but later on one more branch that is added is applied anthropology, so under which all other applications of these 4 comes up. Okay. So, this is historical particularism. Why is it called as historical particularism? Because he went to a particular tribes or particular community, he studied that particular tribes or communities history, and based on that he is trying to come up with the things. That is why it is called as historical particularism. Again, same structure that you have to follow, right. So, he is the one, sometimes looks like Einstein also. So, historical particular means study of a history of a particular culture in detail. So, Boas says that instead of studying universal culture, try to study particular culture, right. So, his focus was doing the ethnographical study rather than ethnology. So now ethnological study and ethnographical study. So these kind of words keep confusing you throughout. Synchronic, diachronic, inductive, deductive, ethnological, ethnographical. So ethnology is something, some people have written things, right? Okay, so everybody writes book. Now what you will do, you will take two books and you will try to compare and you will try to talk about it. Rather than doing that, his intention is going to one particular place, recording all the things and trying to tell about them. Ethnography, when you write a detailed description of the culture of a particular community, that is ethnography. But ethnology is nothing but when you are trying to compare different ethnographies. Did you understand? Once again. Okay. See, if you are not understand anything, rather than keeping your face, you can open up that I didn't understand, so that I will explain it once again. Okay. So always just try to express yourself, that if you have any doubt, just ask immediately, so that you are clear, or else it will get carry forward and disturb the other parts of the syllabus. Okay. So now if you see, I am there, I am going to one society and I am noting down everything, what is their culture, what is their food habits, when do they sleep, what kind of economic organization they have, how the political organization is working, what they are doing. I have written everything, each and every minute detail, and I have written a book. That is ethnography, detailed expression. And what is ethnology? Like me, some other people have also done the ethnographies, or some books have been written. Okay, some people have written the books. Somebody will sit, they will try to compare and talk about it. That is ethnology. Ethnology is a comparative study that is done to come out with the cultural laws. But whereas ethnography is a detailed description of one particular tribe or a group. Okay. This is again, it's a question altogether in unit 8. Right. So he is trying to make anthropology a science. So for that, he depends upon the empiricism, not on the imagination. He says that I am against the classical evolutionist approach of the conjecturalism. He is pro for the facts, right? So all knowledge that you gather should be based on the experiences, and that too through own particular practical experiences. So I told you about the historical background. So basic premises, that before talking about that, studying every culture's history in particular, he says that you should collect as many data as much as the possible data. And next, one can't study all cultures, that's why you should have many students, so that students can go and study other cultures. And anthropologists not only collect data but arrange it in a systematical manner, and instead of giving conclusion, till the time you get enough data, do not make any conclusion. These are the premises. Are you getting? Should not make conclusion. He doesn't like conclusions. First you go get the data. You got the data, then also don't generalize. Get sufficient data. Arrange it properly in a systematic fashion. Then think of generalization. Till then postpone your generalization. This is what he was saying. Okay. Then approaches. Okay. You can see the approaches. So he used inductive approach. So there he will go and study their history. First he will see oral history, what they are telling, like tell about your grandfather, what they are doing, how these things were going. So he will take oral history and written history. Then he focuses on the particular culture only. He doesn't focus on the universal part. And then he goes and stays within the community. He goes and stays for a particular, not like staying completely with them. He goes, studies with them within the community, and then comes back. So what Malinowski did is participant observation. He becomes a part of that culture. So he is going and just being with the community. He is not becoming part of their culture. So there is a difference between Malinowski's participant observation, okay, which also includes fieldwork. But here the difference is that you are going there, you are seeing them, noting things. But Malinowski, he goes there, he tries to behave like the member of that particular culture. Okay, so that is the difference between the fieldwork method and the participant observation method of Malinowski, right? So anthropologists must learn the local language, and translation should be done, and engage people, both garrulous and reticent. What do you understand by these words? Garrulous and reticent. Garrulous means who are extrovert, who are talkative, and you should also include the people who are very introvert, so who doesn't want to express. So both those views should be included. So that is what he says. Engage local people in the study. Okay, involve female anthropologists so that females can express better and it can be recorded. So that's why I told you, right? So Franz Boas has trained many anthropologists, and among them female anthropologists are Benedict, Mead, etc. So what are the contributions? Again, he studied the Red Indians of America, almost all of them, okay, and again he talked cultural relativism, different branches of anthropology. Fieldwork tradition has been introduced, which was later developed by Malinowski, right? So these are all the things, and he has trained many anthropologists. These are the contributions of Franz Boas. When you see critical analysis, okay, see, why did he go for the deductive approach or the facts? Why did he not encourage this comparison, comparative and historical method of, what do you call, evolutionists? Why did he not encourage? Because he says that if you see two cultures, if you see two different cultures, suppose there is mask in both the communities. Now, mask in all cases is not invented by innovation for same reason. Okay, so they both might have invented the mask, but for different reasons. One might have created it to steal something to be used as a rescue for them, other to protect from the contagious diseases, right? So the reasons are different. Reasons are influenced by their history. That is the reason he said this comparative method should be driven away. Rather, you should use the inductive approach. Use the facts and the field work. So that's how he opposed the classical evolutionists, right? So again, you can see he gives the other example also. Among the Navajo Red Indians also there are clans, and among the northwest tribes of Colombia, so in that region also they have clans. Okay, so in both the areas there are clans, but in one area clans are created out of diffusion. Okay, so clans are created out of breaking through. Okay, so larger group has divided into many, the clans are formed. But in other area, clans are created through the combination of other lineages. Okay, several groups have come together, lineages. Lineages means like one lineage, matrilineage, patrilineage. So different lineages together come to form a clan. And when a big tribe is there, if it divides into groups, then also the clans are formed. So in one area, it is formed through breaking down of larger groups, that is fission, and other areas it is fusion. So just because clans are there, it doesn't mean that people are doing it in a similar fashion or for similar reasons. Okay, so that is very important thing that you need to keep in mind. So here one drawback with respect to him was, he said you collect data. It's good that you are trying to prove it as a science, but he did not come up with any cultural laws. He collected data, last he was confused what to do with this data. He collected so much data, which data to use, which data to not to use. Okay, what is important, what is not important, he could not come to a conclusion. Even Marvin Harris, who has written a book on anthropology theory. Okay, so the book is Rise of Anthropological Theories by Marvin Harris. It's a very important book. So every time you write, you talk about theories, you will be talking about Marvin Harris, because he has written a book and in that he has discussed every theory. So there he says that if Einstein was alive, he would have directly criticized the Franz Boas that there would have been no science if people followed inductive approach. So far no science or no laws of science have been innovated or discovered, has been invented or discovered through the process of induction. It was through the deduction only. Because without, now today we can also see that the Einstein theory of relativity is proven now, because when he was alive he gave it, but now it's proven. But you can't go in the reverse direction. Even Einstein would have criticized. Marvin Harris says that even Einstein, if he was alive, he would have suggested the Franz Boas to change his method or approach, to go for the deductive approach rather than the inductive approach. So that is the criticisms that you have if you have to evaluate. Marvin Harris, Rise of Anthropological Theory.
Rise of anthropological
Theory. So he wrote a book on analysis of all the theories. Okay. So then you have conclusion that despite the criticisms, he is the father of American anthropology. He has introduced so many things. That cultural relativism has created the branches of anthropology and trained many anthropologists. So you write in one single line. Okay. So any doubt, Vineet, Ayushi, do you have any doubt? Conclusion, you write the same thing, that despite criticisms with respect to its approach and method, Franz Boas is considered as father of American anthropology, who trained many anthropologists of the future and has also given the concept of cultural relativism, which has become the best attitude in anthropology, in the fieldwork approach, right? So right. So that's all for today. If you have anything, you can approach me, and we'll have the next class on Monday. So Monday to Thursday is our class duration. So in the next class, we'll take up 2.2 society. So we'll finish society and we'll go to functionalism, functionalism, structural functionalism. So like this, one topic and one theory we'll try to finish. I hope you are clear with the things. Try to write the previous year questions on these topics. Try to write the questions. When you write the questions, you'll come across doubts and try to discuss those doubts with me and clear it now itself. Don't carry forward your topics, and that will only delay and make you lose interest in the subject. Okay? So that's all for today. Thank you. Actually, these theories doesn't have much substance. Okay, generally they have said something and that's all not right. So you are also considering the same. Like when we listen to it, immediately we feel that what nonsense they are talking. ఏంటి అంటే వాళ్ళు చెప్పింది అది వెంటనే మనకు అనిపిస్తుంది వీళ్ళు చెప్పేదంతా తప్పే అని. కాకపోతే మనము అదే ఆలోచన వస్తుంది వెంటనే. కాకపోతే మనం ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు ఏం చెప్పారని చదువుకుంటున్నాం, అంతేగాని వాళ్ళు చెప్పింది కరెక్ట్ రాంగ్ అని చెప్పి మళ్ళీ ఆంథ్రోపాలజికల్. సార్ నువ్వు ఆన్సర్ తేలేదా? ఓకే ఓకే. వస్తారు వాళ్ళు. అండ్ నేను అది చూస్తున్నా మధ్య మధ్యలో కెమెరా డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది, అందులో దీని డిస్టర్బెన్స్ అర్థం కాదు. ఇట్స్ అన్నెసరీ వేస్టింగ్ హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ టు 45 minutes ఆఫ్ మై టైం. పోయి మళ్ళీ ఇదంతా రికార్డింగ్ని 30 GB ఉంటే దాన్ని మళ్ళీ ఐ హ్యావ్ టు మేక్ ఇట్